Hi, good afternoon. I'm Frank Lloyd Wright. Thank you for coming. Today I'd like to talk to you about the world's greatest buildings and how they were built. And I'll be your host today as we talk about how they're important also. These buildings were built, span a range of 4,500 years. It spanned 3 continents. And some people find it hard to believe that architects could design them and people could build them, but they did. And these have some common threads woven throughout history with these buildings. 3 threads: 1, that they were built during peacetime; 2, that they were built with man's highest intellectual and spiritual aspirations, and they are the best of mankind. So today, in chronological order, we'll talk about these buildings. The pyramids of Giza in Egypt, the Parthenon in Athens, the Roman Colosseum, the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, Taj Mahal in northern India, Falling Water, of course, in Pennsylvania, the Burj Khalifa, which is the world's tallest building in Dubai, and the Abergeron Cultural Arts Center in that country, and some honorable mentions. Let's get started. First up is the pyramids of Giza in Egypt. They are all built between 2575 BC and 2465 BC for powerful pharaohs named Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. Khufu's is the biggest right here. And the largest, which is that one, measures 775 feet across. That's 2.5 football fields tall, wide, and 450 feet tall. It's made from, this pyramid is made from 2.3 million square blocks that were quarried nearby. Each block weighs 5,000 pounds or more and was a staggering engineering feat and is a testament to the ingenuity and dedication of the Egyptian people. These pyramids are immense tombs with openings and narrow internal stairways, passageways, and chambers leading to where these mummified pharaohs are buried. Now in the main tomb, and I walked this, you can go into here, and there's about 240 steps up to where a king's chamber is inside the pyramids that has a sarcophagus that's empty. And above this, although you can't see it, is some weight-relieving chambers of how they did this so it wouldn't, the ancient Egyptians did this so it wouldn't collapse on this center. They also have a queen's chamber and a descending passageway that had a boat in it for their afterlife. And it has air passages in it. And these walls and things were built with the pyramids. They were not tunneled into it, but rather they were constructed and made into these tunnels like this. And this is the architect who devised it, Imhotep, the first architect. And these pyramids are constructed to protect their leaders in the idealized afterlife. Estimates vary, but between 10,000 to 20,000 workers or laborers who lived in a large encampment nearby constructed these 3 pyramids over a number of generations. A home-sheltered subsidy evolved as others or helpers were needed to cook, supply, fix, sharpen tools, and provide sustenance to these laborers. Huge daily batches of bread and beer was commonly made for them. So slaves did not build the pyramids, rather workers did that were itinerant farmers. Different source materials were put on rafts and sailed downstream to the pyramids as a branch of the Nile, now dried up, passed near Giza. These workers then, using copper chisels, crafted the quarried masses into heavy cubes. Maybe an earthen ramp was used to move the stone blocks up, use a ramp, or water was based as a lubricant on the sides. Now, recent experiments proved that 20 men could pull a 2-ton object on rollers like this or like this, and that's how they transported the blocks from the quarry to be able to do this. They fitted them together as engineers, architects, stonemasons, artists, and workers all worked toward a common building goal, using tools like plumb rods, rope, wood, stone hammers, saws, and copper tools. Each pyramid maybe took 20 or more years to construct. They were originally encased in white limestone, and that casing was taken off and looted later on to build other buildings in Egypt. And it was put in all white to make it look like it was rays coming down from the sun. The pyramids became the tallest and most impressive structures in the world for 4,000 years. These ancient Egyptians were heralded for their precision, mathematical building prowess, engineering designs, and structural integrity that is a legacy that is unmatched in today's world. These pyramids symbolize Egypt and their people's devotion, tenacity, and strength. Now I'd like to move on to the get that? We can see that we use them in front of the Louvre, this kind of structure, or with office buildings, or with an apartment complex in China, or with other pyramid type structures. Next up will be the Parthenon in Athens, Greece. It was built on the towering rocky Acropolis of Athens. It was constructed between 447 and 432 BC, about 15 years under the rule of Pericles. This was at the height of the ancient Greek Empire at the time. It was was a lavish, large, impressive Doric temple dedicated to the Greek goddess Athena. It's Doric in the way that these columns are, flat at the top up here, that's the Doric style. The other two styles are like Ionic and Corinthian. And an idealized picture of this looks like this. It had 8 columns in front, 17 columns on the side, 8 in back, and 17, all the support of a very large roof. And it had inner columns also, but now it looks like this right now. And inside, it housed a colossal 39-foot tall wooden statue of Athena embossed with ivory and gold. She was depicted as a standing armed goddess with a shield, wearing a helmet, and holding a small statue of Nike, Victory, and was the focal point of the temple. So Pericles commissioned renowned architects Ictinus and Callistratus here to design it, and sculptor mathematician Titus to oversee it. And what it had is 22,000 tons of white marble were hauled 10 miles by wagon from nearby Mount Pentacles and were utilized. This massive temple needed some 13,400 stones to build, and there's no mortar in the stones when they built it. It is 101 feet wide, 228 feet long, 228 feet wide, and has 19 columns in the inner portion of it. And these would be there'll also be marble friezes on the inside of this, along with the main statue. So that's how it was able to support this kind of weight and structure. And there are 19 of those columns in there doing that. And I wanted to show you, there's no right angles on this, and there's no parallel lines on this. This is all an optical illusion. As well as the columns themselves, they appear to be straight. They really aren't, but they are bulky in the middle, and then they curve in a little bit here and here, and that's what makes them illusion to be straight. In addition, this is how they built this. They would take the bases for the columns and work on them, put scaffolding around them, and a large wooden structure here, like a crane made out of wood with a wood crank to haul materials up to the higher points. This is how they made it back in the day. And that is, they would take the stones from the quarry and haul it 10 miles to this site, and they work on there, and they use this crane again to get the materials up here. So, broken away, it kind of looks like this, with the columns here, Athena here, and the inner columns here. And this. And there are 3 different columns would be Ionic, Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian that the Romans mainly used. And the parts of the columns, will this be a salivate right here, the column, the fluting, the capital, and the frieze here, and the pediment here. But what this has is, and what makes this is appealing, and what the most important structurally engineering device they use, is they use the golden ratio. which means it's a design making a harmonic, pleasing proportion. This concerns the height of the facade to its weight and the width of the building. It can be defined by taking a stick and breaking it into two portions. If the ratio between these two portions is the same as the ratio between the overall stick and larger segment, the portions are said to be the golden ratio. So, and I will explain that also as we go along. So, this has a mathematical formula which follows a Fibonacci sequence, which is 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 in the preceding number is 1. And then the 2 and the 1 added together is 3. 3 in the preceding number, 2, which is 5. If you take 3 divided by 2, you get 1.6. And this goes on for infinity. Like, for instance, 3 and the preceding number 2 becomes 5. 3 divided by 5 is that same number. And the same number goes from 5, and you add the preceding number 3, you get 8. 8 goes into 5. 5 goes into 8 1.6 times. So this requires a geometric proportion then. This is why it was built based on this. We even see this with Da Vinci's work also. In other words, proportion by mathematics. That is, if you take a piece of a small rectangle on that, it'll have the same scaled down proportions as the larger rectangle. This was done also with the pyramids of Giza. With this, and this is called phi, based on Fidus. The ratio of the height of the pyramid is to either sides of this base is approximately equals 5. So the base and the height has a geometric rational proportion to it. And with the Parthenon, you can do this. You can make a rectangle in this, and all these kind of designs, and a half nautilus shell in it, because it's so well constructed based on math. They just didn't guess and put it up. And we see this with here. So if you take a portion of this, and it'll fit in to this larger rectangle perfectly. And this awe-inspiring white marble, partially intact building symbolizes the unification of the surrounding Greek states that helped defeat the Persian armies, was a symbol of strength, democracy, and defined man's highest idealization of beauty, a well-ordered, well-defined, rational, intelligent world. It showcases Athens' political, economic, and cultural prosperity. It's a perfection of the Greek culture and its values. Okay, so how does that pertain to our world? Well, in the 1780s, our new government needed to form new buildings, new administrative buildings. They wanted to get away from the old European Baroque, Rococo styles, and they wanted something that presented stability, democracy, and longevity. So they chose from the Greek and Roman times these kind of columns, which are really from the Parthenon, like the front of the Supreme Court building, or state capitals, or any kind of libraries or main public buildings. Even the Thomas Jefferson's Monticello was built that way, and office buildings, that they would use these kind of things to define a well-ordered world. That's how it relates. Next up will be the Roman Colosseum, and that was built between 70 AD, about 50 years after Christ's death, and 82 AD in Rome under the rule of Emperor Vespasian. This elliptical amphitheater is 620 feet long, 513 feet wide. It's 4 stories high and 155 feet tall. It has 80 entrances and 2 for participants of events and 2 for the emperor. So we have 4 levels. The first level has Doric columns, and then Ionic, and then Corinthian, and then the top to this. This was the emperor who commissioned this. And how it was built? Well, in 70 AD, the Romans had to put down a Jewish rebellion. So, and of course the Roman army did that and squashed them, and they took the people as slaves, they looted the place, and the money that they got from this, they made into they helped build the Colosseum, and the slave labor was able to fetch rock about 20 miles from where the Colosseum is, and bring it to this site, mainly to make cement from limestone, which is travertine, and they would mix that together with volcanic rock, which is tufa, and they would produce this which is what you're seeing here and what tourists see, this formation right here, this is all Roman concrete, which still survives to today. Our concrete doesn't last that long, between 50 to 100 years, but theirs did. And there was also marble and wood put in also, but that has been taken away over time. So it was built by slave labor at the time, and then the Roman workers and engineers would come and put it together. It had a sunshade over this. It could hold 50,000 people, and it was built again in 12 years. And to how they did this? Roman arches. They would build a template in here and put a keystone in it to hold it up and put mortar in here to make it all work out. And the weight then was transmitted by these, distributed weight to attain this height and to carry the forces from the weight they supported to the ground. So this is about how they would start to construct this using the Roman arch here. Roman engineering was very well done, and you can still see large things of Roman construction like walkways, aqueducts, and partially intact temples, because they were so well done. Now, the main stage here has a 2-story level to it, right here, and underneath it there are tunnels, a series of tunnels that housed gladiators, wild animals used to entertain the public. Lifts pulled by ropes sprung from underground chambers where caged animals could enter the area through trap doors, and thus making a grand entrance. So wild animals like lions, hippos, leopards, elephants, taken from Africa, were pitted against criminals and gladiators, and this is what they had. This was all to keep the masses kind of entertained while the Roman Empire expanded. So give them bread and circuses and they will never revolt. So it had these kind of things that were talked about, engaged in all kinds of combat in the Colosseum, and they had a complex system of lifts, traps, doors, and pulleys. The amphitheater could even be flooded to allow naval reenactments to take place inside here to entertain the public. And you might see something like this back in the day, or even with scenery like this here added in for extra entertainment. Might let this look like this in the stands. The Romans never really killed Christians in the Colosseum. That's a big myth. But actually, they would flood the area up with water and they would enable reenactments. The whole thing lasted about 320 years, and this was about 400 AD they stopped doing this as the public grew tired of it. So they had 320 years of this, and this is what you would see there. And the area became a construction site, and it was looted because the Pope, back around the 6th century, said, okay, take whatever you want from the Colosseum and help build Rome. So you can see where there were pits taken away of the facing and facade made of marble to do this. And that's what helped build, just like they did with the pyramids. Its massive, iconic structure is strong and enduring symbol of ancient Roman construction and imperialism. It's big, impressive, dominates the landscape, and draws millions of tourists to a year. It really represents Rome. And we still have this in today's world. We have coliseums. They're baseball, football, basketball, soccer, hockey stadiums, and they're all billion-dollar stadiums that are in the same kind of shape and way the Colosseum is. That's how it relates to today. This is the, moving on to the Hagia Sophia, or Holy Wisdom. It's in Istanbul, Turkey, which is on the border between Europe and Asia. It's in Istanbul, right here. And it's an enormous architectural wonder built 1,500 years ago. It was originally a Christian cathedral for the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Empire. Originally, the first 2 Sophias burned down, but the third one, ordered by Byzantine Emperor Justinian in 532, survives today. It was built in 5 years in 537 AD and was a Christian church, a Catholic church first for 500 years, a Greek Orthodox church for the next 500 years, and then became a mosque for the other 500. And this is what it looks like on the inside. In order to support this kind of building, the engineers had to come up with a series of arches and these columns to support it. So we have a half dome here, a half dome here, a full dome here, supported by an arch here with windows, an arch, and then the next level, more columns, and even further columns here. So that's how this is supported. That we'll get into more right now. So the emperor wanted to create a grand basilica and scoured the vast Mediterranean area for building material. The marble used on its floors and ceilings were produced in eastern Turkey, and the bricks came from northern Africa. And the columns, well, they were looted actually from ancient Ephesus or southern Turkey from Roman temples. These two people were mainly responsible for the Hagia Sophia, Anthemius of Palace, and Isidore of Miletus really designed the dome here. So much attention was concerned about its famous ornate religious mosaics on the walls. It features historical figures like this. This is how they put them in here. And to work on this, they had 100 master craftsmen who brought along 100 workers. So they had 10,000 workers working on this for a period of 5 years in Turkey at this time. And so it's really a system of shelves. The Hagia Sophia, like this, a full dome and more half domes. And here's a picture, 100 feet up, there's a picture, 13-foot tall picture of Jesus and his mom. Here's what they have is this is the main dome of the place. Place is, I'm sorry. Lost my page. It is 180 feet above the ground, this main dome. Right here it has 40 windows letting in light. And the dome is supported by a system that allows it to land on a square space like right here. Actually, the dome fell down about 20 years in existence, and Isidore had to make a better dome. So he did this, and it makes it look like it's floating in air or suspended from heaven by doing this. And in order to support this dome that weighs 20 tons, he had to use these special ways to make a square compartment underneath it. So we put these triangle-shaped or parabolic or kite-shaped shapes underneath it in 4 different areas, which had a column running underneath it, like right here into a wall, right here into a wall, here, and it would be supported then in 4 corners to make it hold up. So that's how they transmitted the height to this. The length, by the way, is 270 feet and by 240 feet wide, so it's quite a bit of a big building. So that's how they supported the dome, and more structures here. This building is the epitome of Byzantine architecture. It's said to have changed the history of architecture. It is the world's largest interior space for 1,000 years. It was a religious and spiritual center for the Eastern Orthodox Church for the same time length as popes, kings, and were crowned here. It's a cultural icon for centuries, and it was an Orthodox church that became a holy mosque about 1483. So the Muslims came in then and changed things, but not by much. Here's more of the interior. Muslims came in and removed the Catholic embellishments that were there, like the gemstone studded altar and the baptistry, and put in their own configurations in there, and even a wall to pray to Mecca, toward Mecca. And it put in these monograms in here, or medallions with caliphs' names on them. You see, in Muslim worship, you cannot depict Allah or Muhammad in terms of pictures. So they had to use more intellectual ways of doing this, like using patterns or using these kind of monograms of their signs in them. And you can see this is where the original altar was, that they changed things around right here. And you can see how, again, the columns are supported right here for the dome right here. Years later, they added 200-foot tall these minarets that were used to call it prayer, and that's how we get the iconic vision of it today. It was made to a museum and then made back into a mosque, and it's an iconic Muslim mosque and a spiritual center of the city. And now we're going to move on to the Notre Dame Cathedral. It was constructed on a small island on the Seine River in Paris, France. Work began in 1163 under Louis VII, right here, and became an enduring engineering marvel for the Middle Ages. It took 180 years to build this, and it cost $1 billion in today's money to do that. It measures 427 feet long, 115 feet tall. It's so tall you could put a jet airliner in it, and it's 157 feet wide. And it'll have all these architectural points about it. It'll have bell towers in the front of it. It'll have flying buttresses that we'll get into to support the walls. And we'll have a large circular window in it that we'll get to. And the same thing up here with these embellishments. It was made into a shape of a cross, which is all Catholic churches are in France, Paris. And it has these large stained glass windows in them. Plenty of light and used to illuminate stories. It used, really, in the Catholic Church, the talking was in Latin, and most people couldn't read or write. So the best way to instruct people was to put large stained glass windows in these kind of churches to tell stories. But in order to do that, you would have to have very, very tall walls. And the only way to make tall walls back in the day, well, was to build very thick walls. And the walls may have been 12 to 15 feet thick. Let's count that off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Imagine having a wall this thick going up that high. Well, it would collapse on its weight. So what they did was they put these 50-foot long support beams in them called flying buttresses that allowed the builders to make thinner, higher walls, putting in these stained glass windows. There are 28 of these things that circle the church, and that's how the walls are supported, or looking like this. This then influenced other European cities to build churches like this, and this influenced architecture so that churches can get bigger, bolder, and hold more people in them. This was a great architectural device for supporting the wall. And here they are right here. In actuality, it took really 1,000 workers over a course of 180 years to complete this. They had carpenters, masons, metalsmiths, laborers to build this towering church. Most workers never saw it completed in their lifetime. So stone gargoyles, tall arches, columns, vaulted entranceways, spires, bilateral symmetry, and a massive sturdiness made this iconic landmark. So how did they build things back in the Middle Ages? You never know. You never could guess, could you? Well, they would take materials and haul them up ladders. They would use wheelbarrows. They would saw wood. They would use an awl for making holes. They would use an adze for smooth cutting rough wood. They would take a hand crank and maybe deliver bricks up to a worker who was using mortar to put them in. It had to be plumb bob. Workers then needed at the bottom to cut stone and to measure wood and to cut wood here. Other ideas were for bending metal. They have to have metalsmiths to work on metal to bend it. For that, or they might make an interior passageway by making walls and filling it in like this. Or they might hand saw large pieces of wood like this back 500, 600 years ago. Or they might use a human-powered wheel and take up materials to a wall being built, carry materials, go up ladders, cut and work together, take stone from quarries, bring them back, and work on them by chiseling and working on them. So the result of this was magnificent, what they built. And if you cut it up into 6 sections, the Notre Dame Cathedral looks like this in the beginning. In the front of it, the iconic bell towers that let people in. And in 80-foot sections, it would look like this. Another entrance, the southern entrance, where that round circular window is to let other people in, and look like this, as this was the building. And it would have these large stained glass windows in it. Well, I keep going back to that because the Europeans were very good then at making visual representations of historical biblical events. And this helped out with understanding what was going on in the church. But the Muslims couldn't do that. They can't depict things this way, so they had to use a different method, using patterns and shapes that we'll get into with the Taj Mahal. So the Europeans became so good at making art that they had the world's best paintings, and that's why the world's most famous and best paintings are European. And inside the church, well, it holds 6,000 people. Once you go in it, anybody would be mesmerized by this sheer scale of this. It has a large pipe organ in it. It has 8,000 pieces of pipes to make a sound that reverberates 8 seconds throughout this entire place. And to support it, on the inside, it has these 5-foot thick pillars. They're Corinthian. They come into arches. And above that's another series of arches and columns. And above that are windows. And this is how it is supported. So it would make a believer out of anybody. It would be shocked and awe just going into these places just to be able to see this. This was a major place to visit and a major place to worship for these regions and people of France. And then there's a massive window here that's 42 feet in diameter with 84 panels in it regarding church figures. And this is in the southern part of it. And this is what those look like on the inside of it. This is stonework, not woodwork in this, and this is why it took so long to build, because of all these stoneworks in it. And of course it has bilateral symmetry and perfect symmetry to it. The bell towers, you can take a circle and divide it in a half circle, as well as put a triangle in this, along with other circles in it, and quadrilaterals that are diamond-shaped in it, all leading to the entrance. This is it broken up, and you can see the flying buttresses and a very, very tall roof here that has like an attic made out of wood timbers. So that's where it gets its height and sturdiness. These are some of the architectural detail of it. And if you look closely, you can spend an hour looking at this and look at all the detail on it. This is why it took, again, so long to build. There's just so much detail and so much Baroque style involved in this. And again, that's what it looks like on the inside. Again, the bell towers in the front and the buttresses on the side. And look at this. And 4 years ago, they had a fire there. It destroyed the whole roof of Notre Dame. The whole thing had to be rebuilt, basically, in terms of the roofing and other structures. This is costing France $1 billion right now. It'll be done next December, about this time. And what it is it'll be a whole new roof made of oak timbers. They'll keep it the original design. And I have this article because they interviewed a carpenter here who said there are times when he feels like he's whacking with a chisel with a mallet, and he feels like he's working the same way the medieval counterparts did, basically the same joint 900 years ago. So they're working on this right now to restore it. The Olympics will be there in the summer, and they'll have this thing restored 6 months later from it. And this is what it looks like. It's really the heart of France itself, and who could deny it with something, an altar that looks like this. This is a Chartres Cathedral that was built before Notre Dame, but that's where they got some of the ideas from: circular windows and flying buttresses, and some elaborate works to get in. And I'm going to move on then to the Taj Mahal. It's a mausoleum complex in northwest Agra, India, really a north part of India. It's really a love story with a twist. It was built by Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, in memory to his wife, one of his wives, Mumtaz Mahal. And the story goes is that She died giving birth to his 14th child. And he took her to a place where they were having a war, and she had birth in a tent, and then she died. He went off in another tent and cried there for a week, and then thought, well, what can I do to immortalize this, my beautiful wife? How can I remember her by? Because of my love for her. So he spent a lot of time and energy doing this, making this place. He never recovered from the loss in 1631, so he poured all his energy into designing the most beautiful tomb for her in the world. In 1632, some 20,000 workers were employed from India, Persia, the Ottoman Empire, and Europe. Masons, craftsmen, stonecutters, inlayers, carvers, painters, calligraphers, and other artisans all contributed. And of course, it has perfect symmetry, even in the entrance, squares and rectangles, and throughout it here. It's a perfect example of bilateral symmetry and other kinds. And to make this, they 1,000 elephants plus oxen were brought in to help carry the tons of marble from a quarry 200 miles away. Actually, it took 7 years to complete this mausoleum and another 15 years for the adjunct houses, gardens, and entrance gate for this place. So they got the white marble from it, was from an area in India, and the jasper from Punjab, and the crystal and jade from China. And they have this large forest building this mausoleum. It only has 2 bodies in it, of the Shah Jahan and his bride. So these are some facts about it. It has these kind of jewels in it, and it cost $837 million in today's money to build over a 22-year period. And it has all kinds of architectural details on it, besides the symmetry. The finale at the top, an onion dome with a cylindrical drum supporting it. The shatri, which are domed and columned kiosks. There's 4 of them here. It has calligraphy on the side, spires. It has minarets and a base. So it has all these architectural details in it to make it this way. And the dome, which is 240 feet tall, the main one, is supported by, again, this cylindrical drum, supported on top. So once you get inside, you're going to see a marbleized octagonal crypt here that has the 2 people in it that we were talking about, of this couple in raised stone sarcophaguses. Intricate etched calligraphy with 22 verses from the Quran, inlaid semi-precious stones like jade, crystal, amethyst, and turquoise with stone-carved flowers were used to adorn the walls. No expense was spared using the best architects and best craftsmen. So again, I talked to you that we can't use figures of paintings in mosques or mausoleums. So they did these intricate floral designs and other kind of designs. In order to do that, you have to be really, really good at math. So the Muslims invented algebra. And this is how they were able to do it based on their religion, which means you forbade figures. So they became very good at math, while the Europeans did very good at painting figures, people. What I like about this building is it's very open, and it's very inviting to come in to see it. It has a sense of openness to it. It's a masterpiece of architectural achievement as it combines concave and convex surfaces, arches, domes, and solids and voids. Its bilateral symmetry, aesthetic proportions, structural beauty, and magnificent gardens all add to make this a gem of Indian, Persian, Islamic styles. The intention was to make heaven on earth and really a house of paradise, which is what they accomplished. Of course, like all great buildings, it has symmetry to it. You can put all kinds of triangles in here, scalene, isosceles, right triangles in here, and different quadrilaterals all coming in to the main area, which is the entrance. It's really like a soul uplifting into the heavens is what this is, in my opinion. And you can see that the top of the dome angles along with the minarets. There's just 4 of them in here. You can see how this is all done on purpose and all has perfect symmetry to it. Now, as a side note, the mournful widow Shah was so caught up in his plans for making this giant mausoleum that he forgot to take care of his empire. So he let it all go. Why not? He was building this building for his wife. That's the most important thing. So he let it go, and his fourth son then killed his 3 older brothers and took power and put Shah under house arrest and put him in the Agra fort nearby, where all the Shah could do was stare out the window and look at his beautiful creation. So talk about a twist of fate, huh? You never let go of your empire. That's the thing of it. Okay, there are reproductions of it, but you know what? They look like something from Disneyland. They really don't have that power to it and that kind of force to it. So that's fine for that. I know all about this guy. At 67 years old, I was told I was a washed-up old relic, an old dinosaur from the past who didn't have any relevant ideas, had some great ideas from way back when, but not anymore. I was disregarded, but I showed them. In 1936, I devised a house for the Kaufman family. In 3 hours, I designed this house in Pennsylvania, southwest Pennsylvania, in the forested region there. Why, the Kaufman family just wanted a view of the waterfall with a house nearby. And I said, no way, not in my game. You're going to live with the waterfall. You're going to be one with it. So I devised a place called Falling Water, which is a house that floats over a waterfall by using cantilever roofing systems and cantilever balconies. I wanted them to be one with the waterfall, to be living inside of it, to be immersed in it. That's the way you live with nature. And I took great pains to do this. Actually, the idea just fell right out of my sleeve and onto the drawing board. And it's a 5,300 square foot house and was built for $155,000, which is quite a lot of money during the Depression times. But I wanted something spectacular, and I wanted locally sourced limestone, which is what you see here, to be used in it. And this is how it went up, with workers making interior walls from that locally sourced sandstone, as well as using scaffolding here for an idea about a house that defies gravity. And this is the scaffolding going up to support it over a 30-foot waterfall. These are the workers cutting the limestone, sandstone floors, 1, 2, 3, 4 workers to make it look like this. Actually, it takes concrete about 28 to 30 days to cure. Workers wouldn't go on it when it was cured because they thought they'd fall off of it. But I supported it this way for a while, and then I put concrete beams under here to support it. I was told to put steel beams in there, but I didn't listen. Later on, the concrete beams would sag and they'd have to shore it up with some wiring on the inside, some cables. But it's suspended over a waterfall, and there have been a series of balconies. 1, 2, 3, 4. You never see the water coming out of the waterfall, but you hear it and you definitely feel it. A side view would make it look like dominoes placed over each other, like here, like here, like here, and here, balanced over a cliff. So on the interior, what does that look like? Well, from a massive stone fireplace, you have naturally stone floors that are sandstone, diffused lighting, and long windows here. And it would emphasize the horizontal as well as the vertical. And you know what? Corners are ugly, aren't they? They don't. Just take a look at any corner. Forget corners. I put windows in them. So I was able to put these system of windows in them, and little windows that open up. I even used a company that hid the hardware for these windows so it wouldn't look ugly. So that's where this comes from. And inside, you'll see long windows, wood trim, and benches built in. I really don't like furniture. Interior designers, I call them interior detractors. So I took care of the whole thing myself, including the dining room. Who needs 4 sides of a table? Make 3. I designed the table, the chairs, the places where you put your dishes, plates, hid the stairway, hid the lights. I made everything. Why, I even made my own china, like this, for the house. And for anything else, I designed everything that you would need to know for this. Actually, I designed the gown for the hostess to wear of the house. So this would be a perfect example of organic architecture, right? Integrate people, nature, and architecture all in one place in an integrated floor plan, an integrated idea, with everything in order, as natural a setting as can be in a rugged forest. And I even put in desks located in pillars in the house or by windows like this. There's no need to have furniture with me. It's all included in what I do. So this blends the inside and outside together. When you're outside on one of my balconies, you're protected, but you're also with nature, which is what I wanted you to be with in the first place. And of course, there are different levels. A roofing system that acts as a rain guard, another balcony, another layer, all with stairs hidden in there. This would encompass democratic ideals, symmetry, proportion, and an aesthetic beauty that I wanted to translate into something special. So my master, Louis Sullivan, said that form follows function, but not with me. Form and function are one and the same things. They are spiritually joined together in unison. And millions have been spent really to make this house. It attracts about 200,000 people a year. In total, it's had 6 million people visit it over the years. And she's 85 years old and she still looks gorgeous. So yes, a house can be a world's greatest building. Moving on. This is the world's tallest building. It's called the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It is 2,717 feet tall, has 160 floors, and has a mixed-use space of residential, commercial, and hospitality areas. It was designed by American firm Skidmore, Owings & Merrill. Construction started in 2004 and lasted to 2010. It took 6 years for them to make this. And 12,000 workers were employed from East Asia, worked on the site. And how this thing was built is really about the base of it. That's the key thing. It's built in this kind of fashion, which is a Y-shaped low footprint for the base of the skyscraper. This Y-shaped plan plays a central role in the reduction of wind forces on the tower. The foundation has a 15-foot concrete mat supported by 192 piles driven into the ground that are 5 feet wide and 150 feet long. A hexagonal core is buttressed by a series of wings, each with its own concrete core and perimeter base. So this is how it started, right here. And this is it going up. And you'll notice it's in these curved ideas right here, kind of like, almost like a triangle. This helps with wind reduction, and the wind doesn't hit it at 90 degrees, rather than it shapes around it like this. Now all tall buildings sway, and you can hear it sway when you're inside of it, but you can't feel it. But this doesn't sway because the wind is able to go around this thing, which is what they wanted it to do. So this is it going up in 06, and in 07, there's quite a number of statistics to comprehend. 330,000 cubic meters of concrete was used, or 110,000 tons. 6,000 miles of rebars, or 55,000 tons, were put in. Aluminum weighing in the amount of 5 jetliners was used, and consisted of 22 million man-hours were needed to build it. Its total weight is 1 million pounds. It's clad in silver to improve insulation, and uses solar panels to heat its water. There are over 24,000 windows. It has the highest residential apartment at 1,200 feet, world's highest restaurant at 122 stories, world's tallest elevators, 57 of them that can reach 60 mph, and looked like this in 2008, 2009, and the skin went on it at that point. It also has a Armani hotel in it. It boasts 900 residential luxury apartments from 1 bedroom to 4 bedrooms. It costs $40,000 a square meter to have one of these places. That's $4,000 per square foot to be able to live here. And this is from oil money, and that's who could afford to live here are people in that. It has the highest observation level deck at 148 stories tall, and it has the highest outdoor observation deck just above it. Imagine the views you can get. It's quite expensive to go into, but then you pay for everything, like this. This is what it looks like at night. You can see how the configuration of this goes into, with the spiral configuration changing as it goes up. She has a 30-acre lake around it. You can take a boat around and visit other buildings. It has Bellagio-type fountains that go 500 feet tall, and she looks very, very attractive at night. It's twice as tall as the Empire State Building, and it was designed for a delicate flower called the spider lily in the Middle East. As the tower increases in height, the wings step back in spiral configuration, changing the building's shape at each tier, reducing the wind effect. It has 7 two-story mechanical floors housing electrical substations, water tanks, pumps, and air handling units. The central core emerges as the tower's top is finished off with a tapered spire that is 600 feet tall and is made of 4,000 tons of steel. It can be seen 60 miles away. It's a building, it's a statement. Dubai is now a statement and a destination you can go to. It's for shopping, it's a world-class city to be into, and it's all made from oil profits, which have propelled this desert region into a center of commerce, business, and elite shopping and consumer area. And it's for business travelers. If you're standing at the observation deck, you can see the 30-acre lake, the fountains. This area, whole area, used to be desert just 40 or 50 years back. Tens of billions of dollars have been spent to make this, and it looks it right here. So that is the world's tallest building. They want to make a taller building in Jeddah, which is the gateway to Mecca. And this is the Burj Khalifa right here, and the Jeddah Tower is next. They're thinking of making it, but they only got 1/3 of the way building it, like right here. Money ran out, and they want to make it look like this. It would be 1 kilometer tall, or 0.6 of a mile tall, but I don't know if it's going to be built. They have another idea for the Dubai Creek Tower at 0.8 of a mile, like this. It would look like this in the city there, in another area of Dubai. So that's what they want to do. We'll see. Time and money will tell. But you have to build them when there's no problems going on in the world, like wars or COVID or anything else like that. I had an idea too. It was called the Mile High Skyscraper, called the Illinois Building. I made this in 1956, made the plans for it. It was never built. Remember, the materials I had in mind and the methods were out of sync with what was going on. We didn't have those at this time. I was ahead of those materials and methods, and that's why it didn't go up. This is another fantastic building, and the last big one I'm going to show you, the Haydar Aliyev Center in Baku, Bergeron. It was designed by a female British architect, Zaid Hadid, in 2012. We never talk about women in architecture. We don't talk about women much about anything. They're always on the sidelines. But today I'm going to show you what a woman can do here. It was named after the president and modern leader of this country. It is a 600,000 square foot building. It's 8 stories tall, and really a cultural arts center. So how did they do this? Well, the exterior shell hides its skeletal frame. And it has a nimble 2-layer space that frame a double envelope that curves smoothly along the top and bottom of an exterior shell. So this is how they made it. It's in Bergeron, which is near the Caspian Sea, just south of Russia in the Armenia area. It's a small country, it used to be a Soviet republic. And what it has is, it's distinctive architecture and flowing fluid curve style in white, eliminates all sharp angles. Its continuous surface folds and morphs into the landscape, rolling topography. It highlights a single exterior surface. It's like a wave caught in the middle of a mid-ripple. There are no straight lines. It has a large 3D solid skin with sweeping sidewalls, a white roof, and resembles a wave. The exterior cladding consists of reinforced concrete, polyester, reinforced fiberglass, formwork, and steel molds. The interior has curved walls, natural wood surfaces, polished white stone, and there's no right angles in it. Design was a reaction, by the way, to a style which I'll talk about. It has a 1,000 seat auditorium, and being a cultural arts center, it has a library, conference center, workshops, and a museum. And it has a long meandering walkway to get to it, and it looks like this from the outside. This is for two reasons. First of all, we wanted to get away from the Soviet Blanca architecture in the background, which is banal and just nothing to it at all, bureaucratic and nothing. And it looks like Islamic calligraphy. If you take a look at it, the building resembles what it would look like if you're writing in Arabic. It would have all these flowing designs to it. That's what she wanted to do, to make it fit into the country itself. Why not make it into the language and words that you make in paper out of this? It looks like this. There are long ramps that go up in this, and it looks like a skateboard park, or the inside of a Mobius strip as you go up these long ramps with no stairs to it to get to the next level. And it looks like this. This is radical in design, and I loved it when I first saw it. It suspends gravity with the lightness of a handkerchief caught in a free fall from a breeze. And a visitor gets caught up in the spell of it. It's a terrific idea, making a statement about the country that you're living in. Now I'll move to a few honorable mentions, and then we'll be done with this. A few of them are St. Basil's Cathedral, located in the Red Square in Moscow. This is done by Ivan the Terrible, who did this in 1531. He wanted to make it look like flames were rising from the sky. It's really a series of small chapels on the inside. This is Versailles Palace. It's 15 miles southwest of Paris. It's a grandiose, immense place that was transformed by Louis XIV in 1682. And it's so big that 3,000 workers helped build it. It cost $2 billion to build this in their day, in our money. The court and government all ran from this palatial estate. It has 2,300 rooms, 60 staircases, 1,200 fireplaces, 6,000 paintings, and 5,000 courtiers and attendants all live there to run it. It has a 30,000-acre area of landscaping. This is the Hall of Mirrors that the Treaty of Versailles was built in. It has hundreds of fountains like this. And it cost so much money between that and Notre Dame Cathedral, that's why the Parisians rebelled against the monarchy in about 1780 and said they want their money spent on them, and that's why they got a new government. And speaking of Paris and the area, this is the Eiffel Tower. There was a competition built. In the late 1880s, and Eiffel had an engineering project. This is not a building; it's a tower that's 1,000 feet tall. It took him a year and a half to build this, and he used his own money. And then he had in the contract he had the money used for seeing it, going up elevators to pay him back. It's located near the Seine River, and it had to have these 30-foot structures put in the ground for moorings to help support it, and water had to be taken out of it. But it's a great idea and represents Paris itself. This is a glass box house. Philip Johnson's house in 1949, an 1,800 square foot glass rectangular box, 55 feet long and 33 feet wide. It's in the international style, and you wouldn't want to live in this. It's in a forest preserve, but it's really making a statement about what architecture could be if you eliminate all the extra stuff, just glass and steel, really. This is a Lotus Temple in New Delhi, India. It was built in 1986. It's 27 structures resembling a lotus petal. The marbles from the same material used to build the Parthenon. and it's over 100 feet tall. I thought I'd give you another shot of it. I thought this is very distinctive architecture. Why not make something that looks like something from nature? And the same thing with the Niterói Contemporary Art Museum near Rio de Janeiro, 1986. It's really an art museum. They have 3 floors into it. And the architect, Oscar Niemeyer, envisioned a building to rise from the seafloor like a flower or a bird, and you would take a long ramp to get up there, and inside would look like this. This is the Guggenheim Bilbao Museum in Bilbao, Spain. And Frank Gehry decided to build this using software from the aerospace companies to design this. This is radical, and I love it because it looks so different and unique. Inside it looks like this, a lot of curved spaces. And it looks like this. This is very reminiscent, though, of what I built in the late 50s called the Guggenheim Museum in New York, where it has spiral ramps that you can see art pieces alongside, descend on your way down or up. The radical ideas in Manhattan, New York. And here's another building, dancing houses. I think it's a fascinating idea. And this is the Milwaukee Art Museum. It has 25,000 pieces of art into it, and it has a dramatic pavilion designed in 2001 by Santiago Calatrava. It's a white gold wings sunscreen, rises in the air, and supported by 200-foot long cables. And I thought that was very radical for what he did, and very daring. And just 2 more. This is a Crystal Sky Bridge, a horizontal skyscraper with curved buildings in China. And it has an observation deck at the top of it that you can go through like this. Some of the newest buildings are built in China right now because they have the money. And the same thing with Marina Sands hotel complex in Singapore with buildings on it, and this is what the top of it looks like. You can have an observation deck. So this is what I wanted to show you today. I hope you've all enjoyed these ideas. They're all about creativity, ingenuity, architecture, and specifically about engineering crafts that make these buildings support and hold up. So thank you very much. Thanks.